Hello, this is Angelia, and you are listening to or watching the podcast, Why You Do What You Do. The podcast that talks about human development and psychology to maybe try and help you figure out a little bit more about why you do what you do. And last time we were talking about obesity. It's become a big problem here in America. And, you know, a lot of us have this problem because that carb-rich, sugary foods are all too available. Especially, you know, if you're on the go like I used to be. It's easy to stop off at that place and grab you something rather than, you know, stop off at the grocery and grab yourself a, you know, healthier sandwich or salad. And so we're going to take a back up on that. Obese teenagers tend to become obese adults, subject to physical, social, and psychological risks. Because when you're obese, your body is not super fond of that. And now it used to be obese was 100 pounds overweight. Nowadays they're changing that, playing with that, and I don't subscribe to all of that. I think they had it right the first time. So, you know, I know when I am less than 100 pounds overweight, I feel fine. I feel good. I'm going about the daily deal. But once I cross over that line, I feel tired, I feel heavy, my bones ache more. So obesity problems are self-evident, you know. And of course, socially, unfortunately, our society kind of is mean to people who are obese, you know, because they feel like it should all be about willpower. And it's not always all about willpower. There are, you know, health problems, there are mental problems, there are, you know, genetic problems that can make a person obese. And if you're making fun of fat people, that's mean, you know. Some people might object that I even said fat people, but you know what I'm saying. Because if you call them that, then you're being mean. And psychological problems, because their self-esteem is going to be lower because society sees them as less than desirable because they're overweight. Overweight in adolescence can lead to life-threatening chronic conditions in adulthood, such as diabetes and heart disease, even if the excess weight is lost. Because once you start doing the damage is there. So it's still there, lurking in you. So that's like you hear about these people who they lost all this weight, they quit smoking, they're out jogging, and they drop dead. Because the damage was already done, and this excess exercise flared that up, and whoop, that was it. So, you know, the better thing to do is to, you know, stop your child from becoming obese, restrict calories, but give them as much food as they need to be full. Sometimes a determination not to become obese can result in graver problems than obesity itself. And like I said, when I was about 17, I was scared to gain any weight because my parents were perfectionists. I had to look perfect. I had to be in a certain weight. A comment was made one time when I got a pair of pants that got too tight that I may want to slack off on eating out with my boyfriend. So that was kind of drilled into my head that I had to be perfect. That is a hard thing for a kid to try and live up to because you're not going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Even if you have the figure of 36, 24, 36, which is the perfect figure, which I had, you're still not perfect. And it's cruel for other people to try and keep you perfect so that you have an easier time in life. Concern with body image, one's perception of one's own appearance, often begins in middle childhood or earlier and intensifies in adolescence. Because in adolescence, we're all worried about what we look like. And people can be mean. People can be mean. I had some friends, sweetest people you could want, but they were overweight. And so other people were not so nice to them. And like I talked about before about, I had a problem with bullies, but it doesn't matter. And in some people, they never gained any more weight, you know, and then some of the thinner people gained a lot more weight. I personally gained about 60 pounds. So, I went from like 120 to 180, and then had health issues and gained even more. So my risk is actually more than theirs because they were about that weight to begin with and they never did gain a bunch more. So, you know, you can't do that to people. It's just mean. It may lead to obesity efforts at weight control, obsessive efforts at weight control, and that's what I did. I would eat. We got a salad bar at school. I ate salads for lunch. I would eat like a piece of toast for breakfast. I would have a little snack when I got home, and there were only certain things I would eat at dinner time. I wouldn't eat like a lot of really fattening stuff. And then I would go exercise for an hour from like 7 to 8. I would exercise for an hour to try and keep my figure. And I was tired a lot. I remember taking naps. I remember sleeping after school. I remember, at my boyfriend's house, sometimes I would just have to like take a nap. So I wasn't even getting enough calories in me, to be able to stay awake all day. So it was a problem, and it probably did do me some harm. This pattern is more common among girls than among boys, and is less likely to be related to actual weight problems, because unless your doctor's saying, hey, you're obese and you're getting a weight problem here, then you probably don't have one. But anytime, when I was young, they actually had commercials on advertising for like cereal and stuff, said, if you can pinch an inch, you're overweight. So this is during the Jane Fonda workout days. And so that's where we were like, oh my gosh, what if I can pinch an inch? And of course, because I wasn't getting a whole lot of exercise at one point, I was a little soft. And, I was like, oh, well, I'm at least, 10.5 pounds overweight. So we need to step up some, workout here. Because of girls' normal increase in body fat during puberty, many, especially those who are advanced in pubertal development, become unhappy about their looks. And of course I did. As I would look down, and if the belly was sticking out further than the boobs, then I felt like I needed to cut back, because the belly was supposed to be in, and I should be able to put my finger in the belly button, and it should be farther in than the rest of the hand. So, I had my own measurements of, what was acceptable, and a lot of young girls develop these. So you need to talk to young girls and say, don't worry about what society's saying. Don't worry about what anybody trying to sell you magazines or a diet plan or food is saying. You know what's right for you. If the child is overweight, like I said, we got a fruit bowl over here, and my husband eats a lot of fruit now because he's had a stroke, and he snacked on too many salty things. He admitted it, but he really likes salty snacks. Well, now he's developed, a taste to eat the bananas, eat the oranges, and healthier foods. And we still eat everything that we used to eat. We just have made healthier choices. Instead of the salted butter, we're eating 0 cholesterol margarine on our toast. We're eating sugar-free preserves on our toast. We're eating the carb-free bread, low-fat, fat-free, spreads and everything, so that we don't feel deprived. Because personally, if I feel deprived, I'm liable to binge. I've got that problem. So, we're just making better choices. And you can do that for your children. You can choose what they eat as long as they're in your house. So if you don't want them to have all them carb heavy snacks, start replacing them with other things. You'd be surprised. Kids like apples, kids like oranges, kids like bananas, kids like nuts, all of which are more healthy than the chips and dips and, snack cakes that all the kids like to eat. Reflecting the cultural emphasis on women's physical attributes. And we've kind of gotten away from that nowadays because there was the big move in, sexism, is a bad thing. But when I was coming up in the 70s and 80s, you were expected to look a certain way. And there were songs and even movies and things where the woman's curved body parts were considered, the ideal. And women were definitely objectified by society at large, and that's what was expected of you. So today's girls have it a lot easier than we had in the 70s and 80s because they're not expected to be as perfect as we were. And even, back in the 80s, there were so many people. I actually worked with a girl who got implants, and that has gone down way more nowadays than it was then, trying to look for that perfect round look. Thankfully I didn't go that route. But me and my mom, we did do the exercises that were supposed to increase the roundness of parts. And this negative body image can lead to eating problems, and it certainly can. So you need to talk to your girls and tell them that they're okay. They're okay, how they look, and like I said, if they are heavy, it's your home, it's your rules. Take that fattening stuff out of the house. Nuts is a great snack. Hummus and pita chips. Like I said, fruits, vegetables. I mean, chopped up vegetables with some fat-free dip. You can get yogurt to dip some fruit in. I mean, and that's a good snack for the kids when they come home. And like I said, whole wheat pasta and fat-free choices. The more fat-free and sugar-free you can get in your diet, and the more plant-based food you can get in your diet, the better. So you get to make the choices on what you're feeding your family. Girls' dissatisfaction with their bodies increases over the course of early to mid-adolescence, while boys who are becoming more muscular become more satisfied with theirs. And if most teenage boys are doing some kind of exercise. They're doing push-ups, sit-ups, they got weights, and most girls are worried about what they're eating. They're watching what they're eating. And this is just how they are at that age, They want to look good. They want to look how they think they're supposed to. And that's why it's important for you to talk to them and kind of push out some of these messages they're getting from society that they have to look perfect. By age 15, more than half the girls sampled in 16 countries were dieting or thought they should be. And isn't that a shame that these young girls feel like they're not good enough. They don't look good enough, and they need to be dieting. Explain to your girls. You're going to get a little heavier, and your beginning of your adolescence. It's okay. And like I said, you are in charge of what they're eating. So, if you feel like they're getting a little heavy, provide better choices. Like I said, don't deprive yourself. Just provide better choices. Because if you deprive yourself, that's when you start craving. Like I said, your brain loves fat. Your brain wants you to eat it some kind of way. Now, you can provide better choices like nuts and, like I said, yogurt, fat-free dips, and, you can tell it what's good because it'll let you eat all the fat you want, because that makes it happy. So if you make better choices for yourself and your family, that can help curb the problems that people can get into. The United States was at the top of the list with 47% of 11-year-old girls 11-year-old girls. And 62% of 15-year-old girls, 10th graders, concerned about being overweight. So isn't that a shame that girls as young as 10 and even more in their mid-teens concerned about being overweight? So that tells you there's a societal problem there. According to a large prospective cohort study, parental attitudes and media images play a greater part in encouraging weight concerns than do peer influences. Because my peers all accepted me fine. I had some good friends. There was like one or two who I call frenemies who were not being so great. You know, oh, you're gaining weight, you look heavy. But like I said, my parents were perfectionists. I had to look perfect. I had to be perfect. I had to act perfect. And when you're getting that message from the people who are supposed to be, you know, the biggest people in your life, you're going to believe it. And that's unfortunate because children believe what their parents tell them. So if you believe if you're less than perfect, nobody's going to want you or like you, then that's what you believe. Girls who try to look like the unrealistically thin models they see in the media tend to develop excessive concerns about weight. And nowadays we all know that's fake. They've shown you how they like elongate the legs or the torso or whatever. It's fake, you know. Poor Twiggy back in the day, you know, she just wasn't eating, you know. So, tell your girls, this is BS. It's not real. This is unrealistic. And, oh my, I'm going to sneeze. Bless me, Lord. And that they are not to desire to be like this because it's not healthy. You know, if this 6.5 foot tall, you know, Swedish model can pull this off, it's because she's 6.5 feet tall and she's probably not eating as much calories as her body, you know, can burn, you know, and she's active. So for her, that's realistic. If you're 5 foot tall or 5'5", that's probably not realistic for you. And both girls and boys who believe that thinness is important to their parents, especially to their fathers, tend to become constant dieters. And when I started having children, my father made a comment about, hey, get a little chubs there, you know, chubs. And I was having children. So, you know, that became even more of a concern to me. It's like, oh, well, you know, they said the baby weight would come off, but I still got some baby weight. It didn't come off. And, you know, so my husband actually took pictures of me. I guess he thought he was helping. Took pictures of me exercising in the bedroom with weights and things, you know, and saying, yeah, this is what you look like, you know, and that just made me feel even worse. So sometimes people's motivation, they think is going to be helpful, but it ends up making you feel worse. So girls with single or divorced parents and those who frequently eat alone are at risk for eating disorders, because they already don't feel good about themselves, and they're not getting supervision that they need, and so they're making choices for themselves, which, you know, as a kid, you're not making the best choices for yourself. We all know that. We all remember being kids. You're not making the best choices for yourself. Anorexia-Nervosa and Bulimia-Nervosa, are eating disorders that involve abnormal patterns of food intake. And it doesn't say in here, but I have heard that at least, you know, 30 some odd % of girls at one point in their life or another have these problems. And I think that's just freaking terrible. Anorexia-Nervosa, or self-starvation, is potentially life-threatening. It may be accompanied by irregularity or cessation of menstruation and growth of soft, fuzzy body hair. Now, I was, like I said, doing that when I was younger because I didn't want to gain weight. And I did have some like fuzzy hairs, and I did miss a few periods. So I can attest that that's a fact. So if you start noticing your girls, you know, having skipping some periods, and maybe having like more arm hair and things like that, you might want to talk to them about it. Because kids don't always talk to their parents, especially if they're worried that the parents aren't going to approve or be upset or whatever. They don't want to make waves. But as a parent, it's your job to be involved and kind of keep an eye on things. Anorexics have a distorted body image. Though they are constantly dieting and eat next to nothing, they think they are too fat. And that was my judge. Like I said, I was kind of soft because I didn't get a whole lot, but because I could pinch that inch, like the thing said, if you can pinch an inch, I thought I was getting fat. I could pinch that inch. It was there. Sorry about that. Got a phone call. Alright. They often are good students, described by their parents as model children. And sometimes kids do that. They hide what's going on. They're trying to look okay and perfect and I'm all good. And sometimes they're not. So you need to watch your kids, look for behavior variations, and talk to them about it, because a lot of times parents withdraw and they're like, I'm not going to worry about it because I don't know if it's a problem. Not going to talk. Maybe they outgrow it, maybe it's a phase. Just talk to them. Just say, hey, I noticed this. What's going on? And they will probably open up to you because kids want you to be concerned. They want you to care. They may be withdrawn or depressed and engage in repetitive, perfectionist behavior. And my thing was looking in the mirror all the time, trying to check the look, to have some earwax, to have a booger, to have like sleepies or anything like on my mouth. Am I getting a zit on the face? And my husband said to me, well, I never seen somebody look in the mirror as much as you do. You're really pretty, but you sure look in that mirror a lot. And it took that for me to realize I did. But like I said, because I had been told, any little thing, I was criticized for. So I felt the need to be perfect. Thankfully, I've let go of that because I'm certainly not, and no one is. And you can never live up to that, and that's a shame. An estimated 0.5% of adolescent girls and young women, and a smaller but growing percentage of boys and men in Western countries are affected. So, now even the guys are, becoming like that, especially, if, there are, homosexuals, they're worried about their weight because they don't want to look unattractive. And that's a problem for our kids. And I even have a son who I ask every now and then, are you okay? Because he was really concerned with gaining weight. And I just want to make sure he's eating healthy and doing okay because I don't want him to end up with anorexia or something, to where he's not taking good care of himself. In Bulimia-Nervosa, a person regularly goes on huge eating binges within a short time, usually 2 hours or less, and then may try to undo the high calorie intake by self-induced vomiting, strict dieting, or fasting, engaging in excessively vigorous exercise, or taking laxatives, enemas, or diuretics to purge the body. Now, I'm going to tell you, once I start having kids, and like I said, I was called chubs or whatever, I would do that. I would try to restrict the calorie intake, and then I would get so hungry, I would pig out. I would do that. I would stuff myself till I was full. Then I would cry, and then I would try to skip several meals. I'm like, well, I think I ate like 3 meals or 4 meals worth of food, so now I'm going to skip these meals. I'll just, when it's time to feed the kids, I'm not hungry, y'all eat this, I'm not hungry. And I would do that. And I didn't even realize that was a problem. And of course later on when I went to counseling, I realized that was a problem, and it's something I needed to work on. But a lot of people do that. And if you're doing that, it's a problem. You might want to go talk to somebody, get this sorted out, why you're doing this, because what you're doing is you're hurting your body. These episodes occur at least twice a week for at least 3 months, and that's how you know it's a problem. People with bulimia are obsessed with their weight and shape. And I remember because there was a girl I worked with who had a child, and within 2 weeks she was back in her pre-baby shape. Now, she was thin to begin with, she wasn't curvy to begin with, and I never did go back to the shape, and so that made it even worse, because they said all this weight will come off, and the weight didn't come off. And then I was exercising, trying to do other exercises, trying to skip food, then I would binge on food, then I would skip more food. And like I said, in the end, it did absolutely no good. The weight did not come off, the way it should have. And only now is the weight coming off because I make better choices. Sugar-free, fat-free, and that way I'm getting what I need, but I'm not getting the stuff I don't need. And that's something you can do too. They become overwhelmed with shame, self-contempt, and their weight and depression over their eating habits. And that's certainly what I did, because people are mean, and if you go from being what's considered the perfect figure to suddenly not, people will make fun of you, people will laugh at you, people say, oh, well, go on a diet, just here, try this diet, try that. I've tried so many diets, it's not even funny. I've tried so many exercises, I've worn my body out. My body has just had it. So people are mean, and they're going to say mean things. You need to take care of yourself. That's what you need to do. Don't eat all the sugar. Don't eat all the fat. Don't eat all the carbs. Make good choices for yourself, because you're worth it. They have low self-esteem and a history of wide depression over their eating habits. I didn't start out that way, but I ended up that way. They have low self-esteem, weight fluctuation, dieting, and frequent exercise. My parents knew I was in there exercising for an hour. Didn't bother them. No one ever said a word about, maybe you shouldn't do that long. So you're only 17. Maybe you're hurting your body and you're not eating any food. They didn't care. They too wrapped up in their own deal. They didn't even notice what was going on with me. Recently, the American Psychiatric Association has tentatively identified a related binge eating disorder, excuse me, which involves frequent binging but without subsequent fasting, exercise, or vomiting. And that's where people get their self-esteem low, and they feel, maybe feel hungry, or they just want to fill themselves somehow with something, and they turn to food. So it's an overeating disease to where you binge, and that only makes you feel worse, because of course, what does that do? It makes you even bigger. So it's a problem, and if this is a problem, you should go probably talk to somebody and get that sorted out. About 3% of women and 0.3% of men have developed bulimia or binge eating disorder at some time in their lives. And much larger numbers have an occasional eating binge or bulimic episode. And a lot of us do that. And it is a problem in some people's lives. So like I said, if you're doing that and it is hurting you, it's affecting your health, go and talk to somebody. Get the help you need, because you're worth it. You are somebody, and you should take care of yourself. Anorexia and bulimia tend to run in families, suggesting a possible genetic basis. So again, if that's something that you've done, keep an eye out on your kids. make sure that they have a healthy body image and they're not damaging their body, for the future. Excuse me. A variant of a gene that may lead to decreased feeding signals has been found in anorexic patients. And now one of my sons, he has, a neural tube defect problem. It's not full on, but he has problems feeling pain. He doesn't know when he's hungry or full. And we've done our best to regulate him, but of course now he's grown and he has his own job and he decides what he's going to eat and when. So, it's become a problem, but sometimes people don't know when they're hungry and when they're full. And it's a problem. And you can talk to him about, making a schedule. Eat this for breakfast. 3 hours, 4 hours later, eat this for lunch. There are ways, to help yourself. And if this is a problem in your life, you can certainly talk to someone and get some help. Don't sit there and suffer in silence and feel bad about yourself. Get some help. Other possible causes are neurochemical, developmental, and social cultural. Like I said, my son's is developmental. It's a problem. And like I said, if people are saying bad things about you, you're going to feel bad about yourself. Unless you're a super, well adapted, resilient person, and few of us are when we're younger. Usually that takes time and learning and experience. So that's where I'm going to leave you today. And hopefully that helped you to figure out maybe a little bit more about why you do what you do. So please like and share so we can spread this educational program around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. That's all for now. Until next time.